tables. Is there a seat for everyone? There's actually tons of seats up here. Make it lower. So last year when we were looking at the evaluations for Family Faith, one of the suggestions that a lot of people wrote down was that they wanted to hear more personal stories or maybe have guest speakers in. And so one day I was walking with my friend Ilma, and she was telling me about her spiritual journey and what she went through when she had breast cancer, and with her children and with God and her faith. And I decided that I wanted to ask her to come speak with us. And so today I'm going to be interviewing who I consider my best friend here in Sugar Land. She's a parishioner at St. Lawrence. You might have seen her at some of the masses. She has 3 children. She has a 16-year-old daughter, Louisa, at Clements, and then she has a 4th grade daughter in my daughter's class, Olivia, and then she has a 1st grade son who's in my son's grade, Lucas. So she lives in our neighborhood, and she has a really interesting story to tell, and I would like to welcome her up to the front. And she didn't know it was going to be this big of a group, so I was like, sorry. But so let's welcome Ilma Lopez up to the front. So hopefully you can hear us if we're just sharing the mic like this. We didn't know how to do this. I thought maybe we could have chairs and 2 microphones, but we're not going to have that. So we're just going to be talking into the microphone like this, and hopefully you can hear us. Ilma, I'm going to ask her some questions and then let her share. The first thing is if you could tell them a little background of where you grew up and a little bit just about your family and what your faith was when you were a child, how you grew up. Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. I was born in Brazil, in the south of Brazil. My family was very good at church, at teaching and praying. I remember myself praying the rosary with my mom, and I was so young, it never ended. I used to think to myself, oh my God, why is it so long? Why do we have to repeat it so many times? But I remember growing up with that. We have moved around many times. We have, I believe, 9 changes, big changes, like moving states, countries, and so it's a long journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So obviously, Ilma grew up Catholic and one of 10 children, so yeah. Very Catholic. And then you moved to the United States once you were married with Wesley, right?
Yeah.
So after she was married, then they moved to the United States, and the first place was Miami. California. The first place was California. And then when did you first find out that you had breast cancer? Was that California or in Miami? So when she moved to Miami, she found out she had breast cancer. So what was the first reaction, or how did you find out?
In California, when we moved there, I had 2 kids. One was 8 and the other one was 1 year and a half. And when I just discovered, I realized I was pregnant, so it was a blessing. When my son was born, he was 1 month old only, we moved again to Miami. So my son was 1 year old. I went to Brazil and I said I will see my doctors. So I had my first mammogram, and he said, Ilma, you have something interesting in your breast, some calcification, but because you are breastfeeding, we have so many things going on in a dense breast, and I used to have big boobs, I have to say, and I was breastfeeding, so he told me, go back to United States and repeat this mammogram in 6 months. And that's why I realized God established things that we have to go through in life. Because I went back to Miami, I looked for a doctor, and in 4 months I was feeling a lump in my breast, and I had already stopped breastfeeding. I went to the doctor and I told him I need to repeat my mammogram. My doctor in Brazil told me, and he said, oh no, I can feel it, it's about the milk. You have so many milk still. I will give you some pills to stop the milk and keep warm compress and many things. 2 months later, 6 months from the beginning, I went back to him and I said, I'm having something really bad in my breast. It's very warm and the lump is growing. And he told me, it's about the breastfeeding. You have mastitis. I will give you antibiotics. So I went back home thinking, okay, it's okay. 2 months later, then 8 months from the beginning, I went back to him and I told him I want to do the mammogram. And he told me, okay, if you want to do that, we are going to do first the ultrasound. So I went to University of Miami. It's a big hospital, and I did a mammogram, and nothing appeared in the mammogram. Nothing. So he said, you don't have to do the mammogram because the ultrasound doesn't show anything. There I went from almost a year. I went back to the doctor, and he said, it's mastitis. And when he said that again, I said, it's not mastitis. I want to do my mammogram. I went to the mammogram, and right away in the room of the mammogram, the doctor came to me. Normally, you don't see the doctors, just the nurse and the person who does it. And he told me, you have 99% of having a huge breast cancer. And I said, oh, no. No, the doctor told me it's mastitis. I have been going to the doctor. So then we started thinking about it.
Yeah. Okay, so she was starting to go through this, and there was this huge shock, right? So for a year, different doctors in Brazil and the United States, and everywhere she went to, different hospitals, they were just saying, you have mastitis. And so then she sits down, and the doctor walked in with kind of no introduction and said, yeah, it's 99% sure you have a huge breast cancer in your chest. And so you were alone at that doctor's appointment, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. When you came home at night, how did you tell Wesley, or what were the thoughts going through your head when you were imagining the word cancer?
When I left the doctor, I was not thinking very well. I was packing. We were going to 1 week vacation to the Bahamas. So, and I first told Wesley, and I told him, I have this opinion of this doctor that I may have. I have to do some exams to confirm it, but we were traveling the next day. So he said, okay, we are going to cancel the vacation and everything, and I told him, if I have breast cancer, I will go through a big journey, a long journey. So I prefer to go and enjoy this trip with my kids. And if not, we are not going to lose the whole package and the whole thing. So it was an intense trip, very thoughtful. I remember when the first day we went to Bahamas, we were in a pool, and I was wearing a hat. I don't even remember what was in that hat, and a woman came to me in the pool, and she said, oh, why are you wearing that hat? And I said, I know, somebody gave me, I don't know. And she said, oh, it's about breast cancer. And I just took my hat and I said, oh my gosh, really? And then she told me her journey about breast cancer. So that was my first thing to think about God, how God puts things in our life. She has just finished her treatment. She had the kids playing with my kids in the pool, and that was my first sign.
Mm-hmm. So then once you started the treatment, you had chemo and radiation. Is that right?
So when I did the biopsy, right away the doctor who proceeded the biopsy told me that it was not mastitis, that I should stop taking the antibiotics. And I first saw the doctor that she recommended, a good one, in the big hospital in Miami. And when we went to the doctor, she said right away, oh my gosh, you are my age. You have such a big breast cancer. How is it possible? So she was already killing me over there. And I had to do some other biopsies and some other PET scan, CAT scan, and all the MRIs. And I remember that we were in the car once, and she told me, oh, this is the doctor, where are you? And I said, I am in the car. Are you driving? No, I am here with my husband. And she just said, you have metastasis to your bones and to many other places. You are in stage 4. And we were driving, and I said, what? And then we start thinking how bad it is. So the other day we met her, and she told me that I would have probably 6 months or something like that, because it was all over the body.
And I remember you were telling me how she didn't really have bedside manner, and she was saying like, "You're kids, but you're gonna die. What are you gonna do?" Wasn't she like, tell that story, how she was just really kind of rude and...
Yes, she was very rude, and I believe because she related to my age, and she had young kids, she was always worried about, she would put her hands in her head and would say, "Oh my gosh, it's so big. Oh my gosh, you have young kids." So me and Wesley were very worried because she was so depressive. And then was when we decided we need to change doctors. Yeah. We need someone else. We have met a friend in our kids' school, great friend, and she told us, her husband is a doctor, and I asked her, "You need to tell me about the best oncologist here in Miami, because I'm having this, and this." So her husband told us about this doctor, Orlando Silva, in Miami. And when we went there, I was praying to God, "Please give me some sights, give me something to believe." And when we met this doctor, he was not supposed to take new patients. He was so full because he was so good. Everybody wants to go to him. And I asked him, "Can you please take care of me?" And it was amazing, because he looked at me and he said, "I'm not going to take care of you. Who is taking care of you is God." And I said, "This is the doctor that I need."
Yeah, and so I think we were talking about how it was almost like a sign where the one woman was really brushing you the wrong way, and so you made the decision that you were going to change doctors, and you just fell into this doctor's office, and he just kind of changed your whole perspective and your whole, like your path for healing. He just had a different way of looking at it. Can you tell some of the things that he kind of helped you through it, or how he changed the way he was treating you?
Well, just because of his faith, he was a man growing, and he first studied to be a priest. Then he decided to be a lawyer. And at the end, because he was a lawyer, he would like to help the poor people with the treatments that was not paid by the government. Then he decided, I can be better helping people. I can be a doctor. And so this was his vision about God treat us with the treatment, but God treat us with faith. So you have to believe. And he used to tell me, "Here we are going to work half to half. I will do half of it. It's the treatment. The half of it, it's between you, God, and your faith." Another thing that helped us a lot was the way he looked at Wesley, my husband, and the way he knew, even though Wesley was holding everything and not talking about his weakness or everything, but he would address my husband in such a caring way and recognizing the difficulty we were going through. So it's not only about medicine, it's about taking care of the feelings and the faith.
And I think you were telling me, didn't he go to Lourdes? Doesn't he go make trips to different pilgrimage sites? Can you talk a little bit about that? Do you know?
Oh, yes. And he is such a great person in life and in Jesus. He goes every year, he takes his vacation to go to Lourdes in France, because of the pilgrims. They go and they try to have the miracle in their life. So if you go to Lourdes and you see all those people in bed, hospitals, on the floor, all around, in a line, and they cannot walk, they cannot talk, and they have so many bad diseases. And he just goes there, and he spent all those days taking care of the people on the street, because in Lourdes you have just, I believe, 1 or 2 hospitals, and those people need great care. So he used to spend those days just treating those people in Lourdes. Later on, I step ahead, he got married, and he decided to get married in Lourdes. So, and I had the pleasure to go there and ask for God for his blessing. And it was a great experience.
So going back to your treatment, Ilma's not saying how much she actually suffered, I think. But so chemo and radiation, and there was a low point in the hospital where you were praying, and they were telling you that you were really on your last kind of bit. When the doctor was saying that you need to maybe think of plans for if you do pass away, and you were praying and you were asking God, and I think you were saying that you felt that God was taking care of you.
Yeah. Then I started with my chemo. In the beginning was very good. My first 3 or 4 chemos was very strong. I used to spend like 12 hours in the chemo room. I was supposed to stay 3 days in the hospital, but because I had the young kids, I decided I want to take it one day and be at the house with the kids. And after the 4th chemo, after I lose my hair and everything, it didn't work anymore. The tumor was 11 centimeters. It's a big thing. And it went to 4, I believe it was 4 or 6, I don't remember exactly. And then it stopped. So my 7th chemo was not taking any results. So he said, we have already done the worst chemo, the strongest medicine possible. So we are going to change plans now. We need to do the mastectomy right away and to remove the ovaries, because that's what is feeding the cancer. So I went to my hope very low, and I was asking him, so do I have cure? And he said, there is no cure for you, but there is treatment, and that's what we are going to try. But the percentage of surviving was very low. I believe it was 5% or something in my case, metastasis to the bones, to pleura, and my exams used to light up in the MRI and PET scan like I used to say a Christmas tree. Because I said, oh, that's good, they are all clear. And then they used to say, no, what's clear, what is lighting up, it's where you have the disease. And I said, no, it's not possible. So one day I was in bed. I was actually at home with Wesley. Wesley was sleeping, and I was with all this prayer. Oh, I have to say that I found very special friends where we used to pray every week. And I started doing the rosary, what was very, very important to me, because Mother Mary is really a mom, and she was the mom for me, for my husband, and for my kids. But one day I was sleeping and I said, okay, I believe there is no other way to go. And my connection with God was so good. I was feeling so connected to Him. I never asked Him, why me? I was so blessed to be me and not one of my kids, or even not my husband. I used to say that. I'm so blessed that I can take care of it, but I could not see my kids going through it. So I always thank God that it was me and accept that. And one night I was so ready, and I told God, I was so in peace, and I told God, you can take me today, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy. And I looked at Wesley and I was about to tell him, if I die tomorrow, be sure that I'm going in peace, and I trust in God so much that He is going to take care of my kids. So you don't worry about that, because God is with us. But he was sleeping, and I said, he's going to be crazy with me. He's going to say, you cannot think about dying. But I was just giving my life to God and saying to Him, I really trust in you, that you can take me, and I will go in peace. I believe that was the most beautiful experience in my life that night, the connection with God.
Mm-hmm. And so what was the turning point, do you think, when you started to get better? What was the moment, because you were going through all of this and they were really basically telling you that you weren't going to make it, and then what was the turning point where it started to go the other direction?
Well, we started going to a family group, not in the church, but in a cancer community center in Miami, because I needed some mental support, I would say that. So we started taking the kids and Wesley once a month, so the kids would see the other moms without hair, without breasts, and going through all the situations. They had those psychologists talking to the kids and doing some activities related to how to accept things different in your life. And I started seeing some other people that used to go there, and they say, I'm going through it for some years now. And it was very important for us to see those people. And I said, okay, if they do it, I will do that. Even though the numbers are not good, I will believe that, okay, there is a treatment. So in the beginning, I remember that I started asking God, okay, God, give me just 5 years. I would like to see my kids grow up a little bit more, just to have this experience. And one day I was talking to Fernanda, my friend in God, my sister in God, and she told me, you don't have to ask for 5 years. God is God. He's the powerful. He's the most powerful person. He does miracle. Asking him for 20. You are asking too little for him. And I said, okay, I'm going to ask you 20. And I believe those were the turning point, because I was such in a bad situation, like were this up and down moment, and like losing your breasts, losing your ovaries, waking up soaked in a bath towel in the bed, because when you lose your hormones one day to the other, like just like this, and you start losing all the things that make you feel like a woman. And I said, oh my gosh, what is this? I'm not a woman anymore. What's going on? But I was so blessed having my family and Wesley so supportive, even though we experienced differences in our faith. I believe God is very present in our life. And at that moment I said, okay, I will start asking for more years. And I said, God, forget those things that I said before. I want 20, please. In 20 years, my boy is going to be 20. That would be awesome for me. Can I ask? Am I asking too much? But you are the God. You are the powerful man in the world. So that was my turning point, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And then I was wondering, after the doctors told you that your cancer was clear, what was that moment like? And how was that? You were telling me one time about when you finally went in and they said, you don't have any cancer in you, or it's dormant. Remember, they were using different terms.
Yeah. When you have stage 4, I remember one of my friends she was asking me at a certain point, and she said, okay, you have stage 4, it's not so bad. Yes, because they have what? 10 stage. And I said, no, 4 is the last one, so you don't have way to go. But since the beginning they told me there is no cure, you are going to have this forever. And yes, it is until now. I am in 5 years of remission. It's such a blessing. I always thank God for us going through that experience, because I don't believe that I changed too much, because sometimes people say you have to change a lot because you have the other opportunity to be living. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not that person. The only thing I feel different is I need to say always, it's not because of me, it's because of God. I am no different of anyone. I don't know what God wants for me. But it's like now I don't want to waste the cancer I had. I still have it. I still go to treatment. I still take the medicine every 4 months now for the bones. I stay there with the people in the chemo room. I still take the injection. But it's just an experience, and I feel so blessed to talk about God in that experience. It's like not waste your cancer. There is a book about that, Do Not Waste Your Cancer. So I still go to the support group here, and I don't go because of me. I don't want to talk about that too much, but I believe that I have to talk to the others. There are always another woman coming, and she needs to see that we can make it, that God does miracle. Just what you were talking, why does he needed the blind man? I don't know, maybe God needed me to have that, to be here for the others, because I don't believe you have to hide such a great blessing in your life. You have to share. So when the doctor came here at MD Anderson and he said, I don't know, you are a walking miracle. That's how they call me, a walking miracle. And even the doctor here, he's not like faithful like my other doctor, but he said, you must have someone out there that likes you so much. And I said, and I asked him, yes, you can believe it, beat it, I have it.
How has your relationship with God or your faith changed, or has it remained the same, or throughout the journey that you went through?
Because we have moved a lot. I came from a very poor family. My father is alcoholic, and I have been through a lot since I was very young. I thought I was very strong. I always took care of myself. My mom helped her. We are in 10 kids. My mom have 10 kids. And I used to work, I used to travel and everything, and I thought I was very strong. Even though when we have these big changes from Brazil to California, I started being comfortable in a place, started meeting friends, and then we moved again to Miami, and I said, oh my, there we go again. We started with the young kids, a baby, 1 month. But I never realized that I was so weak. I never realized that I would need God so much. I always thought that I could do it by myself. And then at that point, I realized I'm not strong at all. I need God so much, because if He's not with me, at that point I thought to myself, I'm not going to make it. I cannot make it. But we were so blessed with friends and the family. I changed my point of view of many, many things.
And how do you think faith plays a role in your everyday life? Like on just a day-to-day, how does faith interact with your behavior and what you do during the day?
Faith is everything for me. It used to be, but in a different way. Every 6 months that I have to have my PET scan, it's like a shock. It's like, oh my gosh, is it going to come back or not? So it's not that you can just say, I am in remission, because there is no remission for stage 4. It's like the doctor says the giant is sleeping and we need to maintain it sleeping. So I am still in the pill, the chemo pills and the treatments, but I know that I have to have God, and I count my blessings, I believe, every day, many more. Even though I have to be much better person, because God has made so much for me, but I count the blessings every day, and I say, this is so amazing. When I go outside, when I see the trees, when I pray with the kids, and I try to make them to have at least a bit of the faith, I think that's such an important thing, because if my mom didn't teach me how to believe in God, how to pray, I believe I would not have gone through all of that.
That's good. We have a couple discussion questions, but I was wondering, instead of asking you to raise your hand and ask questions, what we're going to do is, can you come up and put up the discussion questions on the other computer? Sorry. And then what we were going to have you do is talk within your tables about the questions that we put up, and we put little blue note cards in the middle of your table. So instead of calling on you, it can just be anonymous this time. After whatever 5 or 10 minutes of looking at the questions, we'll write down your comments, or if you have a message that you want us to read out loud, or you have answers to the questions, write them down and we'll read them aloud at the last like 5 minutes. Unless anyone wants to say, does anyone have anything that they